mic. Hello.
Hey.
Hey.
How are you doing?
How are you today? How do you feel? Are you feeling good? Are you feel sad? You feel happy? You feel mad? Feel like I'm Mr. Rogers.
Yeah.
What do we do with the feelings inside? Oh, when sometimes we want to hide.
I love you just the way you are.
I love you just the way you are. You don't go changing. You don't go changing. Good morning, my dear friends. Tea. Decided to stop doing so much coffee. I've been doing a lot of coffee lately. It's delicious, but I want tea. So I just quickly put out there that, is it really all my energy? I don't know if that's what we're going to talk about today, but it is unscripted. So Todd is grabbing his cup of goodness. What are you having today, Todd?
Coffee.
And so, yeah, I was watching. So I'll just, while people start to come on here, I was watching some Golden Girls clips.
Oh, yeah.
It's good stuff. Really funny. And I was watching some Golden Girls clips, and it was the one where they got robbed, and Blanche comes out of the kitchen head to toe in flour and says, "They got my jewels. They got my jewels, my mother's jewels." And she comes out, and they're trying to figure out why it happened. Why would this happen to them? And say hi to us. Post in the comments. And so watching this clip, this old Golden Girls clip, they were trying to figure out why. And Blanche goes, "It's karma. It's karma. It's somebody's energy in this house that brought this on to us." And and she goes, "But it's not my karma, because I don't have bad energy." And I thought that was so fun, because I think that when I first started doing, learning about energy work and learning about Reiki and learning about New Age stuff and all this kind of stuff, I learned about that concept of things being my energy. But what Blanche was saying was, it's somebody else's energy. Somebody else caused me to lose my mom's jewels. And I really love that, because it's so ridiculous. Yeah. It's so ridiculous. Everything happens for us, not to us. And also too, it's all our energy. It's all our creation. And when we look at what that means and really what it means, it's all of our projection. It's all happening in a good way. And we just got to figure out how we can pull ourselves to that. Hi, Amy King.
Hi, Amy. Hi, Eileen.
Hi, Eileen. So, yeah, is it all our energy? And the answer is yes, it is. And that's hard, sometimes really hard to wrap our mind around, because the other thing is, well, I wouldn't attract this bad thing into my life, or I wouldn't have ever asked for these things to happen. So it gets a little convoluted. The thing is, if the thing is there, the question isn't, oh, why did this happen to me? The question is, what are the solutions? How are we going to find a way to move through it, instead of getting bogged down in whose fault it is? That kind of stuff. Kenny Jaworski.
Kenny.
Blanche is a spiritual doorway. That is a first. So funny. Blanche is a spiritual doorway. Oh, Todd, how you doing? What's going on with you today?
I'm good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I heard you listening to a little Real Love.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, I was.
Guys, if you don't know what Real Love is, it's a book by Greg Bear, and different groups got created around it as well. But it helped us to understand ourselves a little better, and helped us to get clear on what our behaviors were, and challenges that we were facing, and taking ownership of our experiences in a different way and helping us understand what other people were doing or not doing in our lives that we thought they should or shouldn't be doing. And it helped our relationship tremendously. So, really Unscripted, I think it seems to be about just getting really open about our experiences and our resources that we've kind of come across along the way. And yeah. So real love, when I boil it down for myself, it's we have behaviors: lying, attacking, acting like a victim, running, and clinging. And we do them for 4 reasons: power, praise, pleasure, or safety. And when you get to that shorthand with it, it makes things a lot easier, because then you go, okay, what am I doing? What are they doing? Why are we doing all of this stuff? And what are we trying to get? And then, let's see if we can fulfill it in a new way and allow ourselves to have an experience of life that's more fulfilling and more loving and more kind and more caring and that kind of thing. So Todd just posted the link here
To the Real Love book.
To the Real Love book. It's all gobbledygook, but if you look at the comments, you'll be able to just click on it. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
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 So let's see. Now what do we do?
Yeah.
Everybody's left. Everybody's bye, everyone.
Bye.
Hi. We'll stay around for another minute or two. Maybe we should. What do you want to talk about?
We could read any cards.
Do a card? You want to do a card? I'll do an insight card. Let's see what this one says. Boop. Your newborn purpose is nursed by angels, cherished by the Holy Spirit, and protected by God Himself. Just to clarify, Holy Spirit, God Himself, all of that stuff, even though those sound like very Christian things, it's a much deeper understanding of energetics, not the typical Christian thing. Your newborn purpose. So let's talk about purpose. Purpose. What is your purpose? Hi, Eileen. Hi, Kenny. What is your purpose?
I guess that's not a really
I know
clear
it's not being an accurate. Maybe
really.
we need to turn off that computer. Maybe I don't know. So what is your purpose? What do you feel is your unique, divine innate right, inability that you have that makes you feel good? What is that for you guys? Tell us in the comments. All right, let's see. Gratitude goes hand in hand with love, and where one is, the other must be found. Yeah, gratitude and love are connected.
Let's do a happiness card.
Happiness card? Okay. We got to get used to these other ones here. Here you go. Yep, see, now it's showing properly, I think.
Yeah, they're still there, they said.
Yeah.
All right. You can't worry your way to happiness.
Goodness.
So we like what's familiar, and today is practice for tomorrow. If you practice worry, fear, and anxiety, you'll get better at them. Well, that's good. Practice makes perfect, right? Sadly, practicing these robs the present moment of peace and happiness. Instead, practice being happy, prosperous, and free. What you focus on increases, so become aware of your thinking. If you should happen to think frightening thoughts, change them for something positive. An excellent thing to change to is gratitude. When you focus on what you're grateful for, your sense of the fullness and abundance of life will increase. If you catch yourself indulging in worry, fear, or anxiety, stop and practice gratitude instead. So we covered this very thoroughly in the last episodes, on when it's appropriate to redirect yourself. Anytime you're going down that road of fear or anxiety or discomfort in the slightest, it is appropriate to choose again and to choose into a direction that does feel better and more purposeful, and And that is going to, gratitude is, is what whatever you're putting out, whatever you're projecting is what you're going to be getting back, right?
Yeah.
Either from the external world or from your own mind. So it's really important to think and to feel into the direction that you want to be in, because worry is only going to produce more worry. It's not going to lead you to happiness, right? Mm-hmm. So, you you might think that maybe you've heard or you've practiced worrying for other people. I'm worried for you. I'm worried for you. That doesn't do a lick of good, Yeah. I mean, I get where it's kind of coming from, and maybe we get this from parents or grandparents sometimes, or possibly, but really, worrying for someone, does it seem like it's really going to do anything?
No, I mean, if you're going to, help them out, if you're going to help solve their problem, that's one thing. And I think that the contradiction in worry in problem solving, it's like, well, I'm not worried about it. I'm just trying to figure it out. Figuring it out can sometimes have that same energetic component as worry. So it's and the ego is trying to trick us into believing that, no, I'm just figuring it out. No, you really could be just worrying about it and fretting over it and being overly concerned about it. When the truth is the most important thing to do is, where can we find a solution? Where is the solution? How can we think about this differently? What new perspective can we gain from this? How can we flip the facet of the jewel around and see the different sides, instead of going, I just see this one piece. And when I did the talk at CYL, I said, it's important to recognize that we get stuck in 5 ways of doing things. And I would really consider that 5 to 10 ways, maybe max 10 ways of doing things. So if we think about it like this, if I'm going to walk to the end of the street, or rather get to the end of the street, how am I going to get there? The answer is, well, I could walk there, I could run there, I could skip there, I could jog there, I could, whatever. My mind has now stopped. And so I could go back through those things and keep trying them. And if they're still not working, I continue to stay stuck. But if I choose to, I could say, well, I could hot air balloon there. I could row a boat there. I could, we get outside of the confines of what we perceive to be the thing that works. And that could work or should work. It's not working. We get outside of that. We can get outside of worry and doubt and fear and that kind of thing.
So I think projecting worry, whether it's us to ourselves or us doing it to other people, like I'm worried for you, is really not coming from a vibration of love. It's great it's a good idea to change our wording around that immediately and just be mindful of that energy that we're projecting at that particular time. Fear begets fear. Fear does not beget love.
Yeah. And, I think, and I'm going to say something really loaded right now.
Woo! Unscripted.
Because I think as human beings, we want to have compassion for another person's situation. But we don't know how to fix it. We don't know how to solve it for that person. And really, it's not really up to us to solve for them. Right. So we do the thoughts and prayers, and we all got called out big time by teenagers on the thoughts and prayers idea with the Parkland shooting. So we got our ass handed to us on our, well, we're concerned about you. We're worried about you, but we're not going to make any changes. Nothing's going to change. Nothing's going to be different. So when we look at our lives and we look at the lives of others, worrying can be very similar to thoughts and prayers if we're not really in a place where, one, we may not be the one to solve that problem. It could be very much none of our business. It could be very much our business and we don't know what to do. So we're stuck in that same cyclical thinking, and we just need a way to feel better about it, and because we don't know what to do and we feel helpless as it is. And then the other part is people jumping in, getting their hands dirty, and really digging into it. And then there's the other part, which is I guess would say ACIM part, which is I don't know what anything means or what anything's for. And this experience in this life is a dysfunction. And I'm not going to go all in on the dysfunction. So that is my really like base stuff. Like I can only scratch the surface of that type of thing without losing my mind, because I'm like, there's so much that I don't know, but I decided I would be a little controversial today. I'm going to follow in my grandma's footsteps. Deep. Gigi says deep. Eileen. And tell us, Gigi, your purpose. My purpose, Eileen says, my purpose is to use my talent, skills, and gifts to serve others, express their gifts, and to communicate love and compassion to all I interact with. That's a big question, vitamin K and T. Oh, I love you.
That's great.
Yeah. Do you have anything to say about that, or we could move on? I just don't know it.
Oh man, it would take an hour or more to unpack all that.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, I would say, the thing that came to mind to mention is that, true compassion is allowing people to make their own choices.
Ladies and gentlemen, Todd Schaefer. Because you said that perfectly. And
as Michael Brown says in The Presence Process, to interfere is to enter fear. So, there's a lot of different ways to look at this kind of stuff, but there are some axioms, some quotes that we can kind of follow and practice, because really what happens to other people if we take away their classroom?
Right.
It's their creation, facilitated by their I am, their, Holy Spirit, God, whatever. And who am I? Who am I to interfere with what they're creating? Well, that means, what am I projecting? What do I need to work on? Mm-hmm. Why do I feel the need to rescue? See how that works? So Course tells me I need to drill down on my compulsions. What's causing me to need to? Why am I projecting that? What's coming up in me that's causing me to do that? What am I believing that's causing me to interfere? And it's going to be based in fear. It's going to be based in, I don't think you're safe unless I help you, kind of thing. Yeah. Which is not the same thing as facilitating someone who is, if you're working as a hypnotherapist, for example, and you're working with clients, and yes, you're doing hypnotherapy, you're coaching, you're asking questions, you're helping them to drill down on themselves so that they can take responsibility. But you're not taking away the lessons for people. You're just guiding them into questions and helping them to be accountable as you unravel things. Or not talking about hypnotherapy, we're just helping ourselves unravel things, to go inward, and nothing gets healed as long as we keep up the facade and keep up the projections. So it's only by going inward and asking ourselves why we do these things, and is it really real, or am I just perpetuating a falsehood that I'm keeping alive, that is meant to be helpful but really is born out of fear. Yeah. Deep breath. Dang. So Gigi says, all right, I like this. Gigi says, my purpose is directed to helping, caring, and of service and writing. And girl, you are writing. I'm so excited. I love your book cover. Girl, you know it's true. Girl, you know it's true. We're publishing you. Let's see. What else shall we chat about? Damn, Todd and Kira with the helpfulness. Thanks, Kenny. Thanks, Kenny. Ken. I love that word. Damn. Damn. It's
Gigi.
awesome. You make me happy.
You
You make me happy, Gail.
make me happy, Gigi.
JJ.
So, let's see. Another card?
More happiness.
Sure. Or do you want a different card?
Well, I was playing around with those, but it's such a hard left turn.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is.
Maybe devote something to that differently.
Yeah.
Get specific.
Ooh.
Get specific about what you want. There's a big difference between saying, I want more money, and saying, I want $20,000 by the end of June. One is very vague. The other is specific. What you focus on increases. If you focus on something vague, what shows up is something vague. It's like using a magnifying glass to burn a hole in paper. You need to get to the light. You need to get the light to a fine point, then focus it for long enough to make a difference. How can you get even more specific about what you want to bring into your life?
That's a good question.
Very, very good.
You guys answer in the comments. What are some specific things you're going to want to create? And we say, New Year's resolution stuff is coming up. That's for sure. I think we all just kind of feel like we get a refresh or a reset sometimes.
Yeah.
But you can do that. You can hit that refresh button now if you wanted to, and say, okay, well, what do I want? I got another month, a month and a half in this year. What do I want to create? You might be more productive in this last month and a half than all year long because you set some specific.
What specific goals do I want to put what specific weight loss goals do I want to create for the beginning of the year for the weight that I'm going to put on by the end of this year? I'm just playing. I'm joking there, but I remember questioning years ago. It's like, I overindulge at these family gatherings for Thanksgiving so much. And we always play football, or we used to play a football game, like a little bit before and then after. And
I got hurt at several of these family outing games.
Very brave. Those are called battle scars.
Big old Midwestern boys tackling little Southern belles. It's me.
She was one of the only girls out there. It was very cool that she did that.
Not again.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
But I remember saying to myself, you know what? I can't eat this much and play football. I feel like I'm just a Teletubby, a roly-poly out there. So so I stopped, and then once football was done, then we would go back and eat some more. But,
yeah, sure.
But it dawned on me, and this was a long time ago. Yeah. But it dawned on me, it's like, I don't have to just stuff myself to the gills. I can chill out a little bit on my eating. And then I was like, you know what? Eating that makes me feel worse. Eating this makes me feel better. And I just realized this is way before moving to Arizona. And that was the first time I considered that, I don't have to load my plate and I don't have to finish it all. And, it sounds really, really obvious and kind of dumb if you think about it. But it's like, oh yeah, I can choose to eat less or eat different things and then go play and not get cramps and feel like I'm going to puke and then snack later, So dumb. I thought there was going to be something more insightful with that. Nope, nothing really.
Nothing. We could probably figure it out.
Watch what you eat.
And somehow that's connected to being specific with your goals. Gigi wants #1 bestseller, travel and self-help book on Amazon. Pretty specific. And it shall be done. It shall be done. Also book signing at CYL event someday. Oh, very good.
Yeah. Very
good. To answer your question, I'm looking for the right income streams. Damn! The right income streams. Well, the right income streams are going to be the income streams, I would think.
Yeah, right.
What are some of the right ones? You have such a giver's, loving, wonderful, caretaking heart too, Kenny.
Yeah.
So
He takes care of people.
He does. Let's see.
Well, I noticed, I just heard this in a Course in Miracles podcast I was listening to prior to this video today. And that is the thing, I forgot how she said it, but the way we want our life to go isn't always the exact specific way that it ends up going.
Mm-hmm.
Or that, God wants for us, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's because, I would say for me, if something is an expression of your love and your purpose, then that can evolve over time. But I think where the ego starts to come in and bastardize it is when we try to make an identity out of something, and then we perpetuate it. And then it becomes about that separation as opposed to that loving expression. So if it's a loving expression that we allow to evolve, if it wants to, and it may change into other forms of loving expression, then that's staying in God's will, according to Course.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's effortless, and the ego is not infiltrating so hardcore as if it were to be this thing that we're freaking controlling the shit out of every time, all the time. And, and I was there. I absolutely was there. And, man, I've reflected on that the last few weeks and how much power and control and, I have had about, things going a certain way or needing to be recognized. And, it's been Holy Spirit has shown it to me recently and over the last few years here and there that, it was about feeling powerless and unworthy. Mm-hmm. And those feelings of powerless, I didn't quite understand at the time, but now years later, I can see that feeling unworthy and feeling powerless were the sponsoring fears, the sponsoring conditioning that was causing me to need to be seen. Oops, am I shaking the thing?
Yeah.
Were the sponsoring thoughts and feelings that were of fear that were causing me to need to be seen and accepted and understood so bad, which was essentially a getting behavior, which is real love, imitation love, real love, imitation forms of love are praise, power, pleasure, safety. So it was kind of a power move. So I realized that needing to control is, it's an attacking behavior, and it's about power in my case years ago. And that incessant need to control and to be anxious about having any kind of specific outcome was because I had that unintegrated emotion guiding the way. So no wonder it didn't turn out exactly the way I wanted it to, because there was so much of my ego trying to justify the end outcome. I was in my arrogance, playing God, trying to establish my worth. Ego cannot establish its own worth. Yeah. So instead, I had to use the presence process and Course in Miracles and everything that we're drawn to do to develop ourselves and unravel, and allow it to be shown to me that those things went away. They went away more and more. Those emotions, those fears integrated for the most part. So because I don't do those things anymore. Yeah, I'm not. Maybe a little, but I'm certainly watching like a hawk, stalking my ego to see when it's feeling empty, to catch it before it goes into behavior, and then to get loved around it, and tell the truth about it and say, oh, I see my ego doing this, and I need to be seen, accepted, and loved around that, which is practicing real love. And then when two or more gather, the ego cannot stand. So, which is what happens when you're truthful with people and you feel better and you unhook from the game that your ego was trying to play on you to seduce you into going down a path that was not ultimately right for you. So that's a lot.
It is a lot.
But yeah, that's kind of like a once over. I really went down but yeah, so that, and even saying all these things is truth telling, which helps my ego to unhook from the game, and it brings more conscious awareness on my part. And having practiced this in the past has led to being able to even say this stuff now, So so it's just about being honest with ourselves and telling the truth, and real love, presence process, whatever you're drawn to. Of Course in Miracles, that helps you to unhook from the game, which is the opposite of bolstering the ego. And every time I've bolstered the ego in the past, maybe you get a little
ahead in the dysfunction.
You get ahead in the dysfunction, but it ultimately doesn't lead anywhere, because it's coming from the ego's need to be in control
and get approval
and to get praise, power, pleasure, safety.
Yeah.
So the more we unhook, the more of service we can allow ourselves to be. And I guarantee you, I can hear it the way I sound these days, that I wouldn't have sounded like this or be able to offer this type of value even a couple of years ago,
Right.
Before the pandemic. I mean, I was still in much more behaviors and whatnot. So I think it's valuable information.
It is very, very valuable. Sometimes it's important to get some of the basics down too, so that we can understand what it all means for us. And like Todd said, truth telling is key. It's saying it's key. It's saying, okay, here's where I am, and partnering with somebody who may agree with what you've done or said or experienced or whatever, but who will say, okay, well, where are you now? What do you want to do differently? And what I think is important is sometimes we get tricked into going back into old situations, whether it's our ego or whatever might be going on, and we'll go back into situations. And I think for me, it's always been a measuring stick, whether it's going back to a job that you don't like, or a type of job that's similar in the similar industry, but it's something that it doesn't resonate with you, but you do it because you know it. Or going backwards into old relationships or friendships or things like that. And so I'm just mentioning this because this came up for a friend of ours recently. And it's, why do we do that? Why do we go back into old situations? And usually it's because of one of those 4 reasons: power, praise, pleasure, or safety. We're not feeling loved. We're not getting an experience of feeling happy and joyful and free. So we think to some degree that it's back there. It's from where we were, because we were maybe a little bit happier at certain times than we are right now. So if we go back into that friendship, or back into that relationship, or back into that job, or back into that experience, then maybe we'll do it better this time. And that to me is also kind of a trick of the ego as well. So it's kind of like finding out, where you really are in things, and talking about it, getting clear about it, and getting really honest about it. Not because you have to figure it out. You don't have to figure it out. You don't have to worry about it. It's not about worrying about it. It's about what am I gaining? What am I losing? And what are my secondary gains? What are the things that are...
What am I getting out of...
What am I getting?
Staying in this.
Mm-hmm. Or going back to it.
Or going back to it,
And if it's not pure love, total unconditional love, then it's a game.
If it's if it's limitation in any way, then it's a trick of the ego.
Yeah. What's Kenny saying?
Kenny says safety seeking is an ego function. Wow. Damn.
It's gonna be every comment now forever. And
so yeah,
this is how these two roll right here.
Yeah, we've been friends a long time.
It's just gonna escalate at this point.
So I can answer that. Praise, power, pleasure, safety, out of context of real love. I mean, they're not. It's not bad to get praise from someone. It's not bad to be praised. Yeah. What is a function of ego is the incessant seeking of praise in order to feel valid, in order to feel worthy. Then it's just it's essentially a protecting behavior.
The external approval.
So safety, yeah. So like for a lot of feelers, getting approval, depending on how you were raised, getting approval is a safety seeking behavior. like always needing to
got to get straight A's. You got to go to the best school. You've got to go to, if you don't, then you're dead. Like it's a feeling, or feeling of death, or feeling of unlovability, or not enoughness.
Right. Which is not to be confused with if I'm feeling overstimulated or something, or I've had a really stressful day. Self-care would look like seeking, you could call it safety if you want, walking outside and nature, and that makes me relax. That makes me feel safe, things like that. That's a very different thing than, incessantly, it's a behavior, right? It's the behavior that makes seeking safety a trick of the ego, which is ultimately designed to empty you out, as opposed to no behavior, and you're just doing self-care, and this feels soothing and safe.
Yeah, self-soothing is a really, really good thing. And when you watch your clients hold themselves, or touch themselves when they are in session with you, and they're crossing their arms, just know that that's not necessarily a sign of cutting their energy off. And I think that a lot of New Age folks, we got a mixed message on that when learning about body language and things. But actually, body language where somebody crosses their arms, it means that they have learned how to self-soothe. And when they're working on something that's deep, that's a good thing. So safety seeking and self-soothing are two different things, just for clarity's sake.
Yeah.
Yes.
And yeah, well, there's plenty to.
All the things are coming into our heads right now. Does anybody have any questions or concerns or things that they have coming up for them? I would love to, if there's anything we can.
Yeah, feel free to ask questions. I was just going to add. Don't practice not having an opinion, and don't think that you know exactly what everything means. That everybody does. Eventually, you can learn things about how clients act in your practice, for example, and you can zero in your intuition on things, but don't make sweeping assumptions either. Cross arms doesn't mean I'm pissed off or I'm closed off to you. Maybe if they're scowling, but but don't assume. Don't make assumptions.
Right. Yeah, and this is the thing.
Could be cold. It could be just cold.
Yeah, it could be just a little chilly. We are the meaning makers, right? And when we introduce an idea like I don't know what anything means or what anything is for, we are suggesting that our awareness of the situation is limited. So it's important to take away that judgment and say, I don't know what this is. And where it's helped me in the past is when I was doing a weekend long event years and years and years ago. And it was my first big one that I was doing. I was doing it. I was just going to be mainly the only speaker. I had two other speakers that were going to help as well. And Susan said to me, she said, I just said, I'm just so nervous. I'm afraid that no one will show up. And it was silly because there was people that paid for tickets and there's no reason why they wouldn't have. And, but she was like, I don't know what anything means or anything's for. And it was the first time I really heard that. And it helped me to relax. And I think that this is what it's all about, is helping ourselves to relax, letting ourselves off the hook, trusting that the things that make us worry or cause us the most concern don't need to be our focus. That we are allowed to say, I don't know what it means. I don't know what it's for. And be open to allowing things to show up for you in a new way. That's what I think.
And I would add on to that, be mindful of the difference between reacting and responding to things. If you react, then you are the emotion, and your behavior becomes a reprojection of that emotion. Like somebody irritates or frustrates you, then you attack back, kind of thing. That's reaction. Response would be different. And a response would be observing the emotion that you're feeling, not projecting anything back, and allowing that emotion to be felt, recognize that it's your reaction, and breathing through it, the presence process, allowing it to be unconditionally felt. And if you need to respond, allow it to not be a behavior-based response, and do not make that person responsible for your behavior by pulling them in with a behavior like
but
attack.
I'm just so worried about you. I just am so concerned about everything that you need and all the things that you no. Just no. Thank you for your concern, but please don't let this take you out. Right? Right. And I think that that's a common trap. And people are very compassionate. They're very loving people. At least the people in my experience are incredibly loving people, and they want to help, and they want to, if you have friends in your life who are kind in that way, it's okay to just, let them know, if I need you, I'll reach out, but your worry, that's not mine,
And the worry is usually about somebody else needing to be needed. Like if somebody cares, if somebody wants attention, that's because they want to be loved.
And they're clinging. That's one of the behaviors, which is clinging. They're clinging to you. I'm just so worried about you. I'm just so worried about you. I'm like, God, please stop worrying about me. You're making me worry about me. Find the solution for me, and then let's talk.
And then if you're in behavior, you might think that it's your responsibility to rescue them out of their behavior.
It is just, it's such a hairy cycle.
And then things can get hairy and
and uncomfortable. And then it's like, now I'm trying to help you so that you can help me better. But what you're doing isn't helping me. It's just making me feel worse because now I have to take care of you feeling bad for me, so
exactly.
let's get out of that completely and say, whoo, what's the truth here? I don't know what anything means or what anything's for. Only love is real. All good things are for me, for my good. I don't need anything outside of myself for my happiness. I am doing the very best that I can, and everybody in my life is doing the best that they can as well.
And if Course in Miracles is too heavy for you, start with Real Love, because the Real Love book, which I posted the link already, the Real Love book by Greg Bear with that's the praise, power, pleasure, safety stuff. That's the behavior stuff we're talking about. That is a street-friendly version of Course. It's the application of Course, because it puts all the stuff, the Course will help you understand the ego ad nauseum if you want. But if you're just getting started, to start really gaining more self-awareness and reeling it in about pulling off of ego and pulling off of behaviors and pulling off of imitation love, so that you can get back to feeling real love. The book Real Love will help with the Cliff's Notes kind of thing, to really make it easy to start identifying and gaining awareness about what the ego's games are for you personally, because it's different for everyone, and begin to work with that on a very practical level. So Real Love books are essentially the Course in Miracles in application. It's the application of A Course in Miracles.
So Gigi is saying, she says she's all about learning, and in the next week I'm setting up my space for practice, and it's my first time taking over my daughter's room for me. Very, very cool.
Right.
Very well done. Yes, and Gigi is in the process of taking our hypnotherapy training. So, yay! I'm glad you got your practice. You're getting your practice room set up. Very nice.
We are excited about you being a student.
Yes.
Gigi. We are very proud, very excited.
Yay! Yes. Eileen says a very helpful response and allowing.
Great.
Very nice. Good job.
And all this stuff that we're talking about, if it's appealing, the Course and the Real Love stuff, this is all about taking radical responsibility. And this is about as potentially as challenging as it gets, because the world ain't going to ask you to do any of this stuff ever. So it's a massive gift of of love that you give to yourself by being willing to consider and look at your ego and how it's not serving you and how it's just causing dysfunction. So just question everything, and you don't have to get overly mental about it. Just allow yourself to reflect on, to have awareness of, to consider something. If the slightest bit of discomfort means that there is a belief thread active.
Yeah.
And through practice, you can hunt for those belief threads and say, okay, what is it I'm doing right now? Use the Real Love book. And am I in a behavior? Am I attacking, running, clinging, lying, acting like a victim? You can understand those words generally, but the book will help you put them in context.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's John L., who's a coach of ours, she said, I didn't just buy it. I didn't just buy into it. I didn't just read the information and then go, oh, guess that's the truth. Nope. She said, what I did was I went through and I just put it into practice and noticed where it worked. And one of those things is stalking herself. She would stalk herself for those belief threads. So if you have some belief threads, you have some feelings that are off, they don't feel right, something's going on. Even if you're right and you're doing it all right and you're saying all the right things, but something feels wrong or off, there is still a belief in there that is looking to be unwound. And
Right.
Yeah.
And usually, like I know for the case for Janelle and myself, is that this kind of a path of stalking the ego evolves over time. It starts off with like, oh, I'm interested in the woo-woo stuff, and then it gets into more of this and that, and then what happens is you get to be in so much pain or discomfort that the incentive builds to do something about it. Like, okay, I have to do something because I feel like crap so bad that I just can't stand feeling this way. Yeah. So your IM is really working with you to nudge you in that direction to start unraveling if that type of thing is happening. Because usually we make great decisions from feeling amazingly fantastic and in alignment, not in behavior, but in alignment with ourselves, at peace with ourselves, or we make great decisions by the amount of pain that we feel.
That's true.
And in the middle, we don't always have the incentive or motivation necessarily to make really great decisions for ourselves, or we might be on autopilot kind of thing. So it's a real blessing. It's the best gift that you can give yourself by doing this stuff. And if you choose to become a clinical hypnotherapist, having these types of skill sets aren't taught by any school.
No.
So
not to say that we're going to deep dive into this during hypnosis training at all.
No, we don't cover.
No, we teach you how to be hypnotherapists. But this is good content and information that you can follow as you develop your skill as a hypnotherapist as well.
Right. The course, Real Love, not in the curriculum, but doing these things practically for yourself will help you to have a level of self-awareness about yourself and about whether or not you are projecting any of your conditioning and ideally resolving your conditioning so that the people who show up for you can be in better professional service to and have awareness about what they're doing and to be able to accommodate them if they're coming to you for life coaching and or hypnotherapy. So that way your clients are less and less about a classroom for you to unravel your own ego. So when you're taking radical responsibility for yourself, then you're in a position to be more helpful to other people as opposed to them attracting in to trigger you so that you are forced to see something. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I do know that I have attracted a lot of hypnotherapy clients who have shown me what I had active in myself. Yes, that's true for me as well. Not in a bad way, just in this is really poignant. That's what they're bringing to the table here. And every almost all
clinicians of any kind will say that it's weird.
It's
say
weird
it's
how
weird
you attract what you're working on in your clients.
How, why it seems that it's reticular activating system, really, to a certain degree. It's, we spot it, we got it. But it's also, God will use everything to help us,
Right.
So if we have something happening with us, we're going to naturally attract that similar energy from someone else. And as we help them through that thing, then often we find the answers for ourselves as well. And so, it's a really beautiful thing to that extent, but we don't want to be processing with our client. We want to take our issue that might be brought up because our client came to us with something similar to what we've got going on, and then go find our coach, find our own helpmate with that. And if it's something you genuinely cannot help that person with, your ethical obligation is to send them to someone else who can, because that's just 101. At the same time, we want to make sure that we keep ourselves safe, we keep our clients safe, and that kind of thing. So,
and you never want to emotionally process with the client on your issues.
Yeah. If you have something that's resolved and you found something was useful or helpful for you, then that's something you can certainly bring to like a book or something, but it's an introduction to it. It's a, hey, I found that this book was helpful, or I found that the exercises in this workbook really help my clients. But you don't tell them this is the way. There is not just one way of doing anything. And I often recommend that if a client is coming to me and they're coming to me for, let's say when I saw clients, let's say it was pain or migraines or something like that, because hypnosis does help with lessening pain and decreasing and increasing, decreasing sensitivity and stuff like that, and helping the body to relax so it can get to a better function. The brain starts to function more efficiently and effectively, and sending more of that, healing chemicals to those parts of the body. That certainly is true. At the same time, I would also want to partner with a chiropractor, or I want to partner with a massage therapist, or I would want to partner with someone else and say, hey, I also recommend that you go here. So we want to cultivate an entire environment of healing for a client. That's one of the reasons why they are healing centers, because there's lots of different types of people that can help. So one, if somebody brings an issue to you that you feel like, this is I have the same problem and I can't figure it out, the ethical responsibility is send them to someone else. If you feel like you can work in tandem with someone, then that can also be really good too. A well-rounded approach to your client's healing. That's a little hypnotherapy.
Yeah, and that's appropriate.
Training nugget.
That's appropriate because this is a hypnotherapy broadcast here.
Right.
Yes, and we do teach you how to cultivate those strategic partnerships in the training program as part of the business marketing training. And you're generally, and I used to worry about this when I was a hypnotherapist, practicing hypnotherapist, and that was I would worry if I would attract people who I couldn't help, and that 2,000 people I've seen, that's very rarely happened. Very rarely. Maybe out of 2,000 people, maybe 10 or less that I wasn't able to help, or I didn't know how to help, or whatever. Or I just asked the Holy Spirit, I'm like, hey, what would you have me say? What would you have me do? And if I'm led into that client, then the ideas come, and sometimes I'll be led to refer them out. So it helps to do that. But law of attraction will generally bring people who are at the same level as clients, or even more specifically, more often you'll get people who are just a few steps behind you, and that's generally why
that's a good thing.
That's a good thing. That's generally why they attract to you, and it is appropriate that they attract to you in that regard. And if you're already a coach or a practitioner, you probably have noticed that the types of people you draw in have something to learn from you. It's like they're it's like the thing that draws them to you is because there is something you have that they need.
Yeah.
And they're generally pretty close or maybe a step behind or in one particular area. And that is appropriate for them to become a paying client.
Yep. Agreed. All right. Well,
chocked full of value today. Man,
so much
man.
information.
Woo!
We are going to run out of information.
I feel like the more I say, the more I can say.
We're going to have to chop this up and get concentrated orange juice out of it.
mean, we might have to pull this video down and make it part of our paid content, you know? And there's so much good information in here. It's unbelievable. Anybody have any comments, any questions? I guess we kind of wind it down. We're kind of going
winding
down
long now.
Here. Just blasting the doors off today.
I had a hard time following it. So if you had a hard time following, that's okay. It's kind of the same thing with Abraham, which
you're getting it on some level. You don't have to understand everything.
Great.
All communication is energetic. It doesn't start and stop with words.
Yeah.
So just feeling into the vibration of it, marinating on anything that stands out to you is appropriate. You don't have to understand everything. Don't let your ego play that game with you that says, I didn't understand all of that. Maybe I shouldn't be here. Don't play into that. Okay. It's appropriate that you're here. It's appropriate that you've heard everything that you heard.
Yep.
You will absorb everything you're meant to absorb.
Yep.
And if you come back in a couple of weeks and rewatch the video, for example, you if you're drawn to do that, then you'll pick up what you need to pick up then, you know.
Yeah.
So damn.
Gigi, you rock. Eileen, good session. Thanks. Kenny Jaworski. The more he says, the more he can say.
Damn. Yeah, Kira knows. Kira and Kenny knows, my closest friends, and know that it's not the problem isn't getting me to talk. The problem is getting me to stop talking.
Well, I am so happy and so grateful. You know, just take your time with this stuff. You know, little by little, and let go of the worry, let go of the doubt. And I know it's easy for me to say that, but it's easier for me to say that because I've pulled on all the threads, and I've untangled some of the mess in my mind. And at the same time, as you release some of these old belief threads, and as you get clearer on what it is that you're wanting in your experience, the more it'll come to you more naturally. So, but be gentle with yourself. You don't know what it means. You don't know what it's for. You don't know what's going on necessarily. Everything underneath it all, behind the scenes and things, and everything is conspiring for your good. Everything is conspiring for your good, and nothing is lost. So you've got it all. You got it all. All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and end here. Thank you so much. Anything?
Thank you so much. Notes? If you feel drawn to apply for Hypnotherapy School, please do. We would love to have you. And there is a lot of good things to gain.
Yes. So that's out at hypnotherapyschool.net, and we will see you. Bye.
See you next time.